Stop the madness. Keep it 100. The best talk show on the web is here on STMK Radio 100 with your hosts, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone. Come join us from 6 to 8 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. Stop the madness. Keep it 100 with live call-ins, heated discussions about current events, politics, national news, weather, and sports. Join our live online chat room and let your opinion show. Download our phone app. Stop the madness. Keep it 100 on STMK Radio 100. Come join us from 6 to 8 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. The best talk show on the web is here on STMK Radio 100. Call us at 1-866-484-7865. That's 1-866-484-STMK. Stop the madness. Keep it 100. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Check out Reverend Bill Miller's Bible study radio broadcast live on the new STMK Radio 100 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please listen in and support him as he joins the realm of broadcasting to encourage believers and offer the comfort of God to others across the airwaves. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Also, feel free to contact him for prayer, counseling, and conversation at brobill9608@yahoo.com. That's BROBILL 9608@yahoo.com. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100.
STMK Radio 100. You're listening to Stop the Madness, Keep It 100 with your host, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone on STMK Radio 100.
This is a PSA, a public street announcement. You are now listening to a Kickback production. Light up your L's, lean back, and listen.
Senators voting in the negative: Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, Brown, Cantwell, Cardin, Carper, Casey, Collins, Coons, Cortez Masto, Donnelly, Duckworth, Durbin, Feinstein, Franken, Gillibrand, Harris, Hassan, Heinrich, Heitkamp, Hirono, Kane, King, Klobuchar, Leahy, Manchin, Markey, McCain, McCaskill, Menendez, Merkley, Murkowski, Murphy, Murray, Nelson, Peters, Reed, Sanders, Schatz, Schumer, Shaheen, Stabenow, Tester, Udall, Van Hollen, Warner, Warren, Whitehouse, Wyden. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Cotton, aye.
Are there any members in the chamber wishing to change their vote? If not, the ayes are 49, the nays are 51. The motion is not agreed to. The amendment is not agreed to. Mr. President. Majority Leader.
This had to be the worst week in the Trump presidency. 5 cabinet members has resigned. The chief Scott executive had to apologize for Trump's remarks at the Jamboree. Then his appeal of Obamacare went down 51 to 49, with Senator John McCain killing the bill. The House and the Senate passed a veto-proof bill putting sanctions on Russia, forcing Trump to sign it. Now the question is, after Trump signed the bill and he's no longer good to Putin, will Putin bring him down? And if that was not enough, Trump tells police officers to violate prisoners' rights at a speech in Suffolk, New Jersey. Tonight on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100, we're going to talk about that and much, much more.
He went out and bought a big yacht, and he had a very interesting life. I won't go any more than that because you're Boy Scout, so I'm not going to tell you what he did. Should I change it from the word swamp to the word cesspool, or perhaps to the word sewer?
He attacked the free press.
The Chief Scout Executive for the Boy Scouts of America apologized Thursday to anyone in the scouting community who may have been offended or alarmed by President Donald Trump's speech at the organization's National Jamboree earlier this week. I want to extend my sincere apologies to those in our scouting family who were offended by the political rhetoric that was inserted into the Jamboree. Michael Sokobagi wrote in this statement, "For years, people have called upon us to take a position on politics or political issues, and we have steadfast remained nonpartisan and refused to comment on political matters. We sincerely regret that political matters and politics were inserted into the scouting program." During the speech, the president invoked his election victory, slammed both his one-time opponent, Hillary Clinton, and his predecessor, former President Barack Obama, eliciting a series of boos from the crowd. He also called what he called the fake news media. Trump joked about firing Secretary Tom Price. Trump said we could use some more loyalty. Trump gave the Boy Scouts career advice inspired by a controversial developer. This was meant to encourage the Boy Scouts to never quit, never give up, Trump said. But some social media users pointed out Leavitt was criticized for refusing to sell homes to African Americans and other minority groups. His practice led to civil rights groups to demonstrate at one of his properties in Bowie, Maryland in 1963, according to the New York Times.
Because she was told I saw him at a cocktail party, and it was very sad because the hottest people in New York were at this party. For that incredible night with the maps, and the Republicans are red and the Democrats are blue, and that map was so red it was unbelievable, and they didn't know what to say.
Can again rely on humility, on our need to cooperate, on our dependence on each other, to learn how to trust each other again, and by so doing better serve the people who elected us. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them. They don't want anything done for the public good. Our incapacity is their livelihood. Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle. That's an approach that's been employed by both sides, mandating legislation from the top down without any support from the other side, with all the parliamentary maneuvers that requires. We're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done. And all we've really done this year is confirm Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Our healthcare insurance system is a mess. We all know it. Those who support Obamacare and those who oppose it. Something has to be done. We Republicans have looked for a way to end it and replace it with something else without paying a terrible political price. We haven't found it yet, and I'm not sure we will. All we've managed to do is make more popular a policy that wasn't very popular when we started trying to get rid of it. I voted for the motion to proceed to allow debate to continue and amendments to be offered. I will not vote for this bill as it is today. It's a shell of a bill right now. We all know that.
GOP Obamacare appeal bill failed in a dramatic late-night vote. The Senate has dealt a devastating setback to Republicans' efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare, defeating a GOP skinny repeal bill early Friday morning. Senator John McCain, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins joined with Democrats to oppose the measure, a major blow to President Donald Trump and Republican congressional agenda. McCain, who had voted for a motion to proceed to the bill Tuesday after returning to Washington following surgery for a brain tumor, had held out all day, including in a news conference where he criticized the partisan process that led to the after midnight vote. His surprise decision came after a prolonged drama on the Senate floor. Multiple Republican colleagues, including Vice President Michael Pence, engaged in an animation conversation with the Arizona senator, who has long cherished his reputation as being a maverick. At one point before the final vote, Trump called Pence, who handed the phone to McCain. A source briefed on the call told CNN that the call just off the Senate floor was brief and ultimately unaccessible, giving President Trump his worst setback yet in his first 6 months as President of the United States.
Mr. Portman. Mr. Reed. Mr. McCain. Mrs. McCaskill. Mr. Peters. Mr. Portman. Mr. Reed.
9 a.m. Senator McCain re-enters the chamber. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stands at the front of the room like he had most of the night. The grin on his face, though, quickly disappears.
Mr. Peters.
Senator Bernie Sanders appears to nudge Senator Jeanne Shaheen as if to say, "Watch this." McCain waves his hand to get the attention of the Senate clerk, pauses for just a moment and gives a dramatic thumbs down. An audible gasp on the Senate floor, and then commotion. Some Democrats can't contain their excitement. Senator Elizabeth Warren leans in to get a better look and breaks into applause. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a single assertive clap. Senator Sherrod Brown slams his hand on the desk in affirmation, while some Republicans, like Senator Marco Rubio, stare in disbelief. Senator Bill Cassidy drops his head. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer turns and waves his arms, apparently trying to quiet them, as Senator John McCain turns around and walks back to his chamber desk all alone.
All of us were so inspired by the speech and the life of the senator from Arizona. And he asked us to go back to regular order, to bring back the Senate that some of us who were here, have been here a while, remember. Maybe this can be a moment where we start doing that. Both sides will have to give. The blame hardly falls on one side or the other. But if we can take this moment, a solemn moment, and start working this body the way it had always worked until the last decade or so, with both sides to blame for the deterioration, we will do a better job for our country, a better job for this body, a better job for ourselves.
Donald Trump tells police not to worry about injuring suspects during an arrest. During a speech on Long Island on Friday, President Trump took a break from discussing gang violence and illegal immigration to give the law enforcement officers gathered for his remarks some advice on how to treat suspects. When you guys put someone in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hands over, or put your hands over their head, Trump said, mimicking the physical motion of an officer shielding a suspect's head to keep it from bumping against the squad car. Like, don't hit their head, and they just killed somebody. Don't hit their head, Trump continued. I say you can take the hand away, okay? The message that was sent by them officers standing behind Trump yesterday was not a good one. Now you have mayors and prosecutors all across the country promising to prosecute any police officer who violate a prisoner's rights. Come on, with the death of prisoners in police custody, are you really going to play along with that? The fire has started, and every paper and news channel will be playing it over and over and over. I further stated that every law enforcement agency should come out and condemn those statements. Well, less than 24 hours later, every chief, mayor, and prosecutor across America came out against President Trump's statement and is promising again to prosecute any police officer who violates a prisoner's rights. The fire has started. Here's a statement issued by the AP and media. The fallout has just begun. The police department in New York, where President Trump appeared to argue tougher treatment of suspects, is condemning the practice. The Suffolk County Police Department said it has strict rules and procedures for how prisoners should be handled. It said violating any of these rules or procedures are treated extremely serious. I just want to say one thing here. Police officers have enough problems, and Donald Trump and those officers standing behind him has sent a message to America that is going to condemn law enforcement for a long time. We talked about this last week on the show with the release of the Mark Furman tapes. The 6 officers in Baltimore for planting drugs and robbing drug houses. Then the shooting of Minnesota police officers shooting a white female, and they coming out condemning him, forcing the chief of police to resign. Law enforcement has enough problems, and we need no more. You're going to hear some statements from executives of law enforcement agencies and chiefs associations across America.
See these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon. You just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
Some chuckles, some cheers there, but the remarks came during a speech that the president made on Long Island yesterday, speaking specifically about the MS-13 gang violence. And although there were some in agreement, as you heard there, not everybody applauded the comments.
The human rights activists and even some law enforcement are denouncing what they call an endorsement of brutality at a time when police are under scrutiny for the use of excessive force. Joining us now to talk about this, former police chief of DeKalb County, Georgia, Cedric Alexander. Cedric, good morning to you. I want to read for you what the Suffolk County Police Department immediately put out in his opposition to what the president said. Here it is. The Suffolk County Police Department has strict rules and procedures relating to the handling of prisoners, and violations of those rules and procedures are treated extremely seriously. As a department, we do not and will not tolerate roughing up of prisoners. You say the president's remarks are direct endorsement of brutality. Explain that. Cedric, you got us?
Yeah.
So you say that the president's comments are direct endorsement of brutality. Explain for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Victor. Let me say this. Look, the remarks we heard yesterday from the president are very disturbing to all of us in the law enforcement community and across this country. We have been working for years, a large number of years, great number of years, to improve relationships, and certainly in the most recent years we have been. When you have the highest office in the land, make a comment to the fact, give inference to that brutality is okay, you're not going to find a city leader or police executive anywhere in this country who's going to support that. I had an opportunity on yesterday to speak with International Association of Chiefs of Police, President DeLuca, and also to the Noble President, who are now convening in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is certainly a topic of discussion. These professional organizations, along with other organizations across this country, we are really outraged by that remark. And certainly, we want to make it very clear that police in this country, it is an honorable profession, and a profession in which we operate by laws and policies. But more importantly, is that we have a constitution in this nation that we live by. And under that constitution is which we make decisions out there on the street and do the very best job that they can do every day to keep this community safe. We know that our men and women across this country face some very unique challenges out there. They put their lives at risk, and all of us support what they do. But none of us are going to support the idea that we should be brutal in any type of way. Officers have the right to defend themselves, and they will, and I support that. However, we have ways in which we do things. We are a professional organization. We live by our profession, and we have an ethos that we live by. And what we're going to do in this 21st century of policing, we're going to continue forward with the advances that we have made. We will continue to make those advances, and we certainly will not circumvent the professionalism of this organization based on such an irresponsible remark.
A concern that the president's words may embolden an officer who may not have the best of intentions in a situation such as the president was speaking of.
Well, you know, the greatest majority of officers in this country go out there every day, even right there in Suffolk County. And first, let me note, I want to applaud Suffolk County leadership for making reference to the statement on yesterday and stating we do not support brutality. That is not the way we conduct ourselves in Suffolk County Police Department. I want to applaud them for that. But for the officer who may go off the rail, here's what I would say to he or she. I would not pay attention to that remark or any kind of way feel that you're going to be supported, because you have laws in your city and in your state and in your government And we don't want to make ourselves in any kind of way, put ourselves in a position that you enact someone's, you violate someone's civil rights, and you find yourself in trouble.
Cedric,
Look,
let me ask you one thing. We're running low on time here, but I want you to respond to what we saw, because after the president said that, there were applause and cheers from the officers standing behind them. So when we heard from the management of the department that we don't do this, the officers standing there were applauding the president's suggestion.
Yeah, and you know, we all saw that optic, and certainly that is very concerning for us. And here's what I would say to those officers who were cheering that along. I would suggest very strongly that you do not buy into that, because in no kind of way, I'm quite sure your department or any other department across this country is going to support the idea of brutality. I'm quite sure the majority of the men and women that were cheering and in that room that day, I want to think that they go out every day and do a fantastic job. And I'm quite sure they do. But the message that it sent was certainly not one that we feel good about. But I would believe that the men and women there who were there in that auditorium when that speech were made will conduct themselves professionally. And I would hope that they have a history that certainly suggests that.
And now, let's go into the chat room with D Knows and find out what's happening. D Knows, what's going on in there with you? And what is all that smoke coming out of there? Is the chat room on fire again?
Well, Chanel, the chat room is on fire. We have groups like Black Lives Matter, Law for Black Lives, NEO 134, Bernie Bros, We Are America, and J.O. Police officers from D.C., Boston PD, LAPD, and Pittsburgh PD. And they're letting their opinions show. Peter Nushaban. His is disgraceful and does not represent the hardworking and committed officers of the 7th District. Ball, KO 944. First 45, now DC Police. DC Police Department, statement on their t-shirt, defendant attorney says they've seen other cops wear them in court. Wildside 101. Chicago police officials have also said that despite Trump's comments, he never met with any senior police officials. New arm of the law, 911. Hard to believe an anecdote Trump shared at an over-the-top rally event, whatever that was, might not have been precisely accurate. Engram 98. Police chief's group issues statement distancing itself from Trump's remarks. See a blue car 54. Law enforcement officers are trained to treat all individuals, whether they are a complainant, suspect, or defendant, with dignity and respect. This is the bedrock principle behind the concept of procedural justice and police legitimacy. At Brad Health, in fact, numerous officers in Suffolk County, New York, the site of Trump's speech, were recently charged over a beating. Segura Love. When you're almost through a nightmare week, but still bracing for the next horrible thing. Real Deal 100. Do you all know that the group J.O. is, well, it's jump outs, a more aggressive form of stop and frisk that targets men of color in searches for weapons. So tell them, nice try, but we got you. And on a lighter note, Funny Side 88 says, my mom said follow your dreams, so I went back to bed. And that's what's happening with these no's in the chat room.
Baltimore police fallout due to officers being videotaped by their body camera planting drugs. There has been a major fallout. Marilyn Mosley, Baltimore State Attorney office dismissed 34 cases following the discovery of the police body cam footage showing officers planting evidence. As a result of the body cam video, there are many other cases connected to the cops that are now in jeopardy. There are 12 cases involving incarcerated defendants that are now under review and may be thrown out and leaving taxpayers holding the bag for millions of dollars in payouts of lawsuits. And there's over 70 more cases that has to be looked at. So the total cases affected 123. 34 cases dismissed so far, and 12 cases involving defendants that has been already incarcerated, and 77 more cases to be looked at. A judge in Baltimore has ordered the state attorney's office to start immediate reviews of all the cases involving the 3 officers. This is a mess. James, we have the where's the tape of play the tape of Marilyn Mosley's statement she just gave out.
Where there is an independent corroborative evidence, and where these officers are material and necessary witnesses, we are dismissing those cases which rely exclusively on the credibility of these officers.
And Michael, all this comes down to credibility. Credibility of the officers, credibility of the department, credibility of the courts. If anyone believes otherwise, they're only fooling themselves.
For 2 years, lived about 30 miles outside of there. In March of this year, the FBI arrested 7 police officers for filing false statements, for shaking down citizens. So this is not new. This is a culture in the Baltimore Police Department, and I hope that, something has been done. You pointed out earlier in your segment that this all came to light, one, because the police officers were stupid. They didn't know how to properly fabricate evidence, but also came to light because the public defender's office was doing their job. And also, I'm going to give kudos to Marilyn Mosby. She has not been afraid to come after police in her own department, her own city.
And now breaking news is that the Maryland Office of the Public Defenders said that a charge against at least one suspect were dropped on Monday in light of the new video that they said show officers working together to manufacture evidence. The development comes days after the state prosecutor announced Friday that 34 prosecutions of pending drug cases or weapon cases were dropped or dismissed because of the connection to the 3 officers seen in different body cam video showing one of the officers planting drugs. And this is just really crazy because this just came across the AP, Michael, that the public defender's office saying that there is another suspect who drugs was planted on, and they didn't release the video of that because he's not being represented by them. At least 2 Baltimore police officers are now under investigation, and the prosecution in the cases that they're connected with are being postponed until the investigation is complete. This is totally gone wild. The discovery of the latest video brings to 3 the number of body cam videos, 3 body cam videos, which have recently came up of police officers staging a crime scene. And this is just not Baltimore. There's one from Puerto Rico. There's one from Colorado, which an officer staged a drug find in a vehicle. Charges was dismissed against that suspect, but no public action was taken against the Puerto Rican police officer, his department says. Now, what is going on here? You're wearing a body cam. You should know the function of your body cam. You cannot fake it. So, police officers in Baltimore planting evidence and faking evidence. Police officers in Colorado planting evidence and faking evidence. Police officers in Puerto Rico, come on, there's something totally wrong here. And people, it is out of control. Law enforcement in the last 2 weeks has been set so far back, no wonder the community's outraged. Hey, welcome to Stop the Madness, YouTube, Facebook. Also, on the phone with us is a 30-year law enforcement officer out of the state of Arizona. Lawrence, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Lawrence, welcome to Stop the Madness. Keep it 100. It's good to have you with us today on the air. We was just talking about situation in Baltimore, and we want to talk to veteran police officers. So, before we even start, tell me what your opinion is of police officers on the state of policing today.
With the use of body cams, it's an excellent tool. I wish we'd have had it when I was on the job, but it can work both ways. And I just hope these guys understand that using using the cameras, what they're for, and also the people with cell phones, they're out there. They're watching every move that we make, and we have to be aware of this.
Now, Lawrence, I want to ask you a question because you came on the force back in the early 70s.
I came on in 1969. I was the first class of 150 right after the
After Glenville riot. So you came
Right.
on when there was only like 145 minority police officers on the force, and I'm glad that we got you with us because I want to ask you a question. Last week when we did our police forum, a captain from the LAPD stated that police officers and minority police officers forgot their role in law enforcement while they was brought onto the police force. So can you explain to us at the dissent degree when the judges made the ruling in favor of the Shield Club and Fred Johnson, that his ruling was that minority police officers were supposed to come on and treat the community better than what they was treated themselves by police officers when they was in that community?
I was one of the fortunate officers, Sean. I grew up in Mount Pleasant. I went to school in Mount Pleasant. And when I came out of the academy, I wound up in Mount Pleasant. And it was to my benefit. And I just, I didn't worry about what people thought.
So,
did my job.
So when you grew up you worked in the community that you grew up in, is that a benefit for law enforcement officers knowing the people that he's dealing with in his own community?
Exactly. You tend to have a closer relationship with the people that you know. You know the layout of the land, so to speak. You know the people. The people know you. You know where to go. You know who to talk to. You know the good guys and the bad guys.
Well,
that's a good advantage.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you feel that minority officers, white females and females, Puerto Ricans, Asians, black males, black females, because those are the minorities, do you think they understand what role they're supposed to play in law enforcement today?
I think they do, but like I did when I came on, they're going to be facing opposition from their own peers. I caught more static from my own than I did, so to speak, from the white community. And the first thing they would tell me, well, why don't you go, stop somebody, pick on them. No, it doesn't make any difference what color you are. I'm doing my job, and they don't understand that. They call you an Uncle Tom and all kind of derogatory statements, but you're there to do it for a purpose, and they don't understand that.
Now, in the violence report, which we read from 1970, after the Glenville riots, there was a lot of innuendos in that report where officers were refusing to work with you or they was quitting the job at that time. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, we had an upper end, we call it upper end, and a lower end. The lower end was Fleet Avenue, Broadway down through there. The upper end was Kinsman, Buckeye, whatever. And the minorities usually worked the upper end cars. If there was a vacancy, they'd put us on the lower end. And I experienced, I'm not going to say I didn't, I experienced racism. But for the most part, the guys that I work with were pretty good.
So, Lawrence, as a senior veteran and a seasoned officer, I'm going to ask you a question. Last week they released the Mark Furman tapes, and Mark Furman had a rookie uh, policewoman on his car, and he took her through hell, and she filed some complaints. Did you see or hear the Mark Furman tapes revealed?
No, I didn't. But I saw the Mark Furman in the series that they had where he made the racial remarks, the Rodney King deal.
Oh, okay, okay. So you seen that. A second question that we want to ask you about is the double standard in the Minnesota police officer shooting. Are you familiar with that one? Where the officer shot the white female that walked up to his car.
Yeah, the Muslim officer.
Right, the Muslims officer.
Right.
At this point, and I want to say this as being a veteran officer myself from the same department you came from, I have never heard a police chief come out against a officer in a shooting less than 10 hours. And
I didn't either.
And I want to say this because I have never seen the union or police groups or the FOP not come out in support of an officer that was involved in a shooting.
I haven't either. Well, here's the thing. Everybody believes that because you're a police officer, you're Mr. Macho, that you can shoot the gun out of your hand. You know, but I've always been told, never be afraid to tell that you were afraid under the circumstances. Be afraid to admit it. A lot of guys, this macho, they feel like they're invincible. That they're less than human if they get on the stand and admit that they were afraid. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, I plan on going home. I'm not going to take an ass whooping from anybody. If I have to shoot, I'll shoot you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, let me go right here to this one because our chat room want to ask you a question, so we're going to go into the chat room. Out of your state, Sheriff Joe Aparo, I think Aparo. He just got convicted of ignoring a federal court judge order about doing profile traffic stops. Do you think he should get some jail time? Because everybody here talking about he should go into I think he had a tent city out there.
Definitely. He should experience his own judgment, his own punishment. I wholeheartedly agree. And let me tell you, when I left the police, when I retired from the department, I was in 2008. I was also a corrections officer for Arizona State Prison here, and I experienced racism, and also I saw a lot of mistreated people. I wasn't in Phoenix where Pio was, but I was in Kingman. But yeah, it's Ohio should suffer his own justice.
Well, Lawrence, we thank you for joining us tonight, and we'd like to get you back with us later on because there's some things we want to talk about. Last week we did do the 49th anniversary of the Glenville shootout with the militants and police, and I seen that you was in the chat room, and we want to get some of that personal experience from you. So I'm going to get together with you, and we're going to get back and get you on the show where you can do like an hour with us and just tell us about your experiences becoming a police officer back in the 70s with the city of Cleveland. Thank you for coming with us on Stop the Madness and Keep It 100, and thank you for your service as a law enforcement officer serving our community and making it better for us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
On Stop the Madness, Keep It 100, we really keep it rolling. It's been a long week, and I want to say this for Economic Mob, if you're listening, the phone lines are really jumping. Give us a call. I'm going to open up the phone lines for all our callers, so you can give us a call at 866-484-STMK. That's 866-484 Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. Give us a call, and we are now opening up the phone lines. Earlier, we talked about Trump. AP is now reporting that a grand jury has been impaneled on the Russia investigation. Also, we was talking with a 30-year veteran, and as you heard him talk about when he came on the job back in 1969, how it was. We got Gerald Hall in our chat room on Facebook Live. We got Captain Henry A. Hill in our chat room on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Now, I want to go back to a question that we said about, we was talking about before in the chat rooms, bringing that up. The incident in Minnesota, the officer shooting a white female who called the police for a rape in progress behind her house. And when the police put into the alleyway, one of the statements they made, that his partner made, is that she walked up to the driver's side of the police car and hit the police car and made a bouncing noise. And his partner pulled out a 40 caliber and shot across the driver's chest and shot the female and killing her. I have never, and I'm going to say this right here, this is a double standard, and I'm going to call it out. I have never, as I said, seen a chief of police come out against a police officer within 10 hours or 24 hours condemning him for the shooting. That is unheard of. That cost the chief her job. Okay? So when she lost her job, that cost them her job, because she put the city on the spot, especially with all the high-profile shootings. I have not yet seen the FOP or any union come out against that party. Economic Mob, you just broke off. Come back one more time for me, Economic Mob. If you can hear me, come back one more time. I have not seen anybody come out in favor of that officer or say, hey, let's find out what's going on. Let's get all the circumstances in it. Let's find out what's happening. And this officer's lawyer, due to him being left out to dry, they have advised him not to even give a statement on the shooting because they feel that he's going to get indicted. Now, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered here. And one of those questions is why the department is going against one of their own so quick and so hard for the shooting. Right now, we have another caller on the line. And caller, welcome to Stop the Madness. Voicemail. Stop the Madness, keep it 100. Welcome. Hey, I'm glad to hear you, Economic Mile, because we was just talking with a retired law enforcement officer out of Arizona. And I'm going to ask you the same question, Economic Mile. Have you ever heard of a police chief coming out against an officer in a shooting within 24 hours and condemning him?
No, that right there would sort of like be prejudgment. It would open up the city to civil litigations, and that responsibility would be financially cast upon the populace. So, no, normally it's an investigation. Your safety director had to review it with the prosecutor. It's kind of unique.
And, you know, I want to say this, that I have not even seen the FOP or his union and nobody come out for this officer. And this is shocking that everybody has been silent or condemned him so early that his legal team has told him not to even say anything. And a lot of people in the chat room and a lot of people are saying it's because he's a Muslim officer and it goes against Donald Trump's America beliefs.
I think him being a Muslim officer does play a role, as well as him being of a dark hue pigmentation. So despite him basically migrating from Africa to come here, when you look at him, he still represents the other individuals who resemble him here that have been basically suffering the plight of being killed without having a firearms or circumstances that don't indicate escalating to that highest level of deadly force against an individual.
Now, Economic Mob, I want to ask you this question because everybody in the chat room is just dying to hear this. How do you see the state of law enforcement in America today?
I think that the officers who work the street have been put in a position where you have individuals who are benefiting from it from an economic perspective. They are able to manipulate and navigate the system, establishing corporate allegiances, which actually rain down upon the people negative consequences. So I would look at the organizational structure first and foremost. You have Mayor Michael White, you have Mayor Frank Jackson in Cleveland. There's no way to justify why you have a union that's the Black Shield and the FOP, and you still have individuals who are working the street who are silent and mute, which means that they are fed up and they are not doing their jobs effectively. Consideration should be given to actually taking some of the retired officers and forming like community officers who have experience to either go to lower crime-like type environments or calls and basically participate more actively in the paperwork, or go after the police have respond and critique the individuals in the community's opinions as far as the service that they have been rendered.
Now, let me ask you again. I remember when I came into law enforcement in '79, and Lawrence also said that where Black officers wasn't allowed to go in certain part of the cities or police certain ethnic communities in the city of Cleveland. So I was born during the Jim Crow era, and I remember Jim Crow laws in the city of Cleveland. But my question is, do you feel that the minority officers have forgotten their role in law enforcement, as a captain, minority captain has said from the LAPD?
The minority officers are put in a position where they have an institution that came into existence first and foremost based on white supremacy and ensuring that economic and social disparities would be in place so there wouldn't be an equal playing field. So if you look back, I see that we are going through a time warp where you are having certain social issues actually being revisited just based on what's taking place in society, who people are voting for. So when I mentioned the Casual Killing Act to you off to the side, that gave individuals the right to actually do whatever they wanted to do with their slaves. Now, when Lincoln basically passed the Emancipation of Approximation, then they basically subsidized that with the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow laws. So you still had that social mental illness where individuals could arrest somebody for being a vagrant,
right,
arrest somebody for being homeless, not having a resident, arrest somebody for not having a job. So when I look at what's going on in the city, that's what I see. I see that we basically are going backwards in society, and that they still are using two ignorant groups against each other. One they make a reference to as being black, which they have locked into a social caste system. The other one who has been the benefactor of their suffering, who they make a reference to as being white, and they still cannot get it that other group who's controlling the 98% of the wealth is still only kicking them back 2%.
Correct.
To actually. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt.
I was just saying you're 100% correct, because if you go back into the problem of the situation when it was developed after Reconstruction came up, they had to figure out how to educate the slave to become a free man, but still have a slave mentality about himself.
Right. Right. So, even religiously, right. Christian black codes, even religiously.
So you look at
economics.
And you look at it, that was the start of the public school system. That's why we having the problems we have now with the school to the prison pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask this question because everybody's dying to hear this question and ask this question again. and I want to go back into this. How do you feel? Did you get to hear the Mark Furman tapes?
You know what? I'm familiar with the court case as well as the previous gentleman. I haven't had an opportunity to basically examine what you just mentioned.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Law enforcement officers, do you feel that they should be coming into the community calling people of color the N-word?
No, no. But don't get me wrong. Okay, it would be hypocritical of me to say that when I was on the job that occasionally it did not come up or I didn't run into controversy where I had to escalate in order to basically eradicate certain crime or individuals.
Well, that's called verbal judo. Wait a minute.
That's
called verbal judo. There's a difference between verbal judo to control a situation and then using racial slurs to hurt or demean the individual.
Yeah.
See, there's two different levels there. Okay, I mean, if you're in a situation where you have to exert authority and let somebody know that you're not playing and you're going to use verbal judo as your authority, okay, I can go along with that. But if you're going to demean a individual in the community, then we have a problem.
You brought up something that was key, my brother.
Now, I'm going to ask you.
One of the problems is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
You brought up something that was key, and occasionally you always bring it up. One of the problems is you don't live in the community. Individuals can't come and actually police a community without doing it in a warrior-type style if the only interaction they had with that community is stereotypes that they observed on TV or the radio or through propaganda news.
Now, when earlier law enforcement officers was in the chat room, they're in the chat room now. Earlier was saying that it is very, very esteemed that officers should be either from the community they're police or they should represent the community they're police, but they should also have some type of tie to that community so they can be invested in it.
Exactly.
And the old officers was talking about residency or living in the community that you police or living in the immediate area where you have some tie to that region.
Exactly. Because economically, it's going to be more beneficial to have an individual inside of the community because not only do he understand it, he probably has been through it and he's putting himself in an economic position to provide a remedy socially and economically. So I'm seeing what these cats are out here shooting people for. And I never would have shot individuals, but say the woman who walked up to that officer's car, okay? I done been in situations where individuals then pointed a shotgun at me. But just based on my skill level and me knowing my cover and everything else, the situation was able to be de-escalated. As far as fighting individuals, come on, let's be real. 50% of the individuals out here riding around in his own car is not as though they are participating in anything physically to keep them in shape. They basically not resort to their gun.
But let me say this here too, okay? And I want to go back to this into the chat room. Is that because the old school people are gone, and they have these people who are not qualified to train or they're fast tracking the training? Because I remember, and everybody else in the Cleveland area and Facebook Live, welcome CPD. We got CPD officers in the chat room. That Sergeant John Horvath made it mandatory that you learn to fight for 3 minutes. And if you couldn't fight for 3 minutes, you didn't get out the academy.
That's the way it should be right now.
And remember, we used to box.
Years old.
Gerald Hall. Remember when we came through the academy, we used to pull numbers and we used to fight. And if you was a 110-pound or 90-pound woman, and you put my number, and I was a 300-pound man, you had to get up there and throw them dukes up with me for okay, and we fought. Okay, I remember that. Okay.
Right.
And that's the problem right now. They don't have confidence. And I'm going to say this, and I was called about being police bashing and everything else, but I stand for right. So if a police officer is right, I'm behind you. If you're wrong, I'm going to hang your ass out to dry because you are damaging the profession that I put my whole life in, and you are hurting the community because the community needs you to take care of them because they cannot take care of themselves because there's been economically planned to be left that way. And I don't. And we got other officers in the chat room. This is not a black and white issue. This is not a black on black crime issue. Everybody knows it's black on black crime. Why? Because there's no jobs in the community. There's no home structure. There's no church structure. So there is a conversation for black on black crime. Okay, just like there's a conversation for white on white crime. So I want you to hold on, Economic Mob, because I'm going to go to a commercial and pay a bill, and then we're going to be right back. So you hold on the line because I don't want to lose you.
A great business needs a stunning website. And with Wix.com, you can do it all by yourself. Wix.com makes it easy to look amazing online, no matter what type of business you're in. Show off your images in a beautiful gallery. Grow your contact list and get all your social media in one place, just the way you want. Your customers are going to love it. So, what are you waiting for? Show the world what you can do.
Stop the madness. Keep it 100. The best talk show on the web is here on STMK Radio 100 with your hosts, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone. Come join us from 6 to 8 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. Stop the madness. Keep it 100 with live call-ins, heated discussions about current events, politics, national news, weather, and sports. Join our live online chat room and let your opinion show. Download our phone app. Stop the madness. Keep it 100 on STMK Radio 100. Come join us from 6 to 8 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. The best talk show on the web is here on STMK Radio 100. Call us at 1-866-484-7865. That's 1-866-484-STMK. Stop the madness.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15%.
You're listening to Stop the Madness, Keep It 100 with your host, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone on STMK Radio 100, 100, 100, 100.
Welcome back, Economic Mob. Are you still with us on the line?
Yes, sir.
We was just going through that, so we wanted to keep you right here with us, everybody. We are talking to a young man who's been in law enforcement, and I want to go right to the line where everybody want to go to right here, and I really want your 100%. Tone the Stone is in studio with us. Tone the Stone, welcome, and you got to let us know what's happening with you. Yeah, your mic is on. You just got to say hi. Economic Mob.
Hey, what's up, Tone? Brother Tony, what's up?
Oh, so right here, let me ask you.
What's up, Tony?
Let me ask you this question right here. Baltimore. They have a case that just is unbelievable. It's getting ready to cost the city probably about $276 billion. Billion, and that's with a B, folks, not an M, a B, where they have 3 law enforcement officers on the first case filmed with their own body cams planting drugs. Then the state attorney general's office has turned up another 7 body cam videos of law enforcement officers staging or tampering with evidence against suspects. And a lot of people want to call it as it is, say planting evidence. This is just outrageous. You got 77 people in jail, 2 of them that's on capital murder charges that may walk because of those officers' actions in that. So tell me what you think about that situation.
You know, everybody might not like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to keep it 100. I would more so basically be interested in conjunction with what you just said with, do those individuals have any other previous calls? Has the residents in the community observed them actually selling drugs? That doesn't justify them planting drugs. If they planted drugs, then quite naturally they should be civilly liable, not only for planting drugs, but they should be helped from a criminal perspective and a judicial perspective for being prosecuted for basically violating their oath. So I think they should be prosecuted for violating their oath and letting down the other members of the police department as well as the community. But I still do think that there had to be some pre-existing conditions for those guys who was doing some investigation. It happens. Realistically speaking, it happens. It happens in Cleveland. It happens in other places. If an individual basically is too skillful in their ability to basically be able to disseminate drugs, it happens with the FBI. FBI happens, it happens. Ronald Reagan sold drugs. Oliver North sold drugs.
Remember
the drug house in Cleveland.
The Fechner case here in Cleveland, where he sold drugs under the police officers' protection.
This is where the double standard comes in and double jeopardy. You remember when the Cleveland police got actually caught selling drugs with that guy Schuster, who actually they was protecting the drug house and selling drugs to basically finance going down to Florida to make a bus.
Yes, that's the case I just was talking about, where a couple of officers were going to get indicted on that. So, Economic Mob, under the situation that we have right here in the community, it goes all the way back, and it goes back even before Africans came to America, because that was the start of the system that we're now under, the haves and have-nots, and then the being put over certain individuals. Even if me and you in the same boat, somebody told them that because they were sitting in seat 1 and I was sitting in seat 3, they was better than me. So how do we correct this ship, or how do we break the cycle?
Education, cultivation, accountability, and honesty. We have institutions at our disposal that we can actually mobilize. One of them, first and foremost, is the church. Why is the church voice so mute when it comes to actually somebody getting shot or one of these situations actually happening? Why under most circumstances would their voice be muted?
Well, I asked that question to one of the reverends, but go ahead, finish up. Come on back in.
And another thing too, educationally, we are under the impression that we all came from Africa, when in all actuality we didn't. In all actuality, more people were shipped from here during the transatlantic slave movement than was brought here from Africa. Based on their registry, potentially anywhere from maybe 350,000 to 500,000. So when they actually began to call somebody as a native based on what America Vespucci said and Christopher Columbus said, they look like you. But when they take you from being native to basically being colored, to basically being Negro, to basically displacing you to a point where you can never tie back into your Aboriginal identity or indigenous identity, which would allow you accessibility to reparations to the point where you are stateless and you are countryless.
And it's so and it goes back to the village, teaching the kids and teaching everybody responsibility of their history, because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Correct.
Now, you are educating our listeners, and in the chat room, they are just going crazy. Matter of fact, they got some more questions they want me to ask you, but I want to go back into this situation right here where you have already talked about it. When let's say society, I don't know the proper name to call it. I'm gonna say the colonies, or I want to say the structure of our forefathers. Okay. When they had to educate the African, and then they had to start the school system and teach him how to get into his mind, was this done purposely to break that cycle, to keep him in bondage, or was there a effort to really educate him to bring him into society as a free thinking man?
It was an education in itself means that somebody is trying to acculturate you or indoctrinate you into their way of their system of thinking. The cultivative aspect would have been to actually tell the truth so that individuals would not be teaching in history classes globally false information. Globally, when it comes to history, false information is being introduced. Individuals who I talk to, Brother 100, even from a religious perspective, don't know under most circumstances the authorized version of the King James Version of the Bible is the same guy who actually ordained authorized slavery and is tied into the Bacon Rebellion. So because we have parents who are scared for their kids to basically be introduced to something 100, these individuals have been brainwashed by religion, by educational opportunities, or they have been compromised by economic subsidies. So they don't want nobody talking to me or you.
There you go.
Too heavy for them.
Well, Facebook Live, YouTube, we are talking with a brother. It's called Economic Mob. He's into educating our young people and touching their brain. And you hear what he's talking about right now, and he's keeping it real. Economic Mob, I want to know this one thing right here. What do we need to straighten law enforcement out today, right now, to get them back into where they're supposed to be at? Because we have more black executives, and I got people from the National Black Executive Police Officer Association in the chat room, and we have more black executives running police departments or involved in administrations of police departments. So we should not be still talking about racial profiling. We should not be talking about different communities being treated different in law enforcement, because we have those people running the department. So under this situation right now, since we are here standing on the footsteps of 1954 again, what do we need to do to bring it back to where we can get control of it and put it right to ship?
First and foremost, policemen should never be in a position financially where they have to work part-time. If you basically pay them a king's ransom for the job that they're doing because it's one that it takes a unique individual to do, then that would eliminate some of the stress. Individuals do not realize that a policeman doesn't wear a uniform 24/7. They have to deal with their own day-to-day stresses, whether it's relationship, whether it's kids, whether it's bills, whether it's foreclosure. So they are human, and sometimes they respond out of being human. The other thing is that the church needs to become more active. We need to get back to actually the same way we came up explaining to our children, not only the dangers of being in the street as far as criminality is concerned, but in the manner in which you respond to, like, police officers, or you interact with police officers. So if we can do those things, then maybe we can establish an economic blueprint with a promissory note where we can begin to do something inside of the community where individuals reinvest in each other. Your show is a perfect show to create a promissory note with an economic blueprint dealing with a pledge where individuals begin to do co-op type of programs when it came to ordering fruit, vegetables, and when they ordered in bulk, or they at least assisted the stores to order in bulk, just like the Asians, the people from India, and the Arabic individuals who order in bulk in order to basically make a profit and charge you a higher price, probably, than the individual over here that looks like you that have to pay a higher price to get the same damn thing.
Hey, brother, economic mob, I hear you, and I agree with you 100%. I think what you're saying is right, but more to answer the question that Chanel asked, because, yeah, we, of course, police officers are human beings, so they should be expected to make mistakes like human beings make mistakes, and they should be expected to fall victim to emotions of human beings. But that's not an excuse, because that's not an excuse when a young brother grows up poor and he decides to go out and deal drugs. That's a mistake that he makes, and he's going to be penalized for it. They should be. So I think to answer to get at the point I'm trying to make, to answer the question that Chanel said, you already said it earlier. Accountability, honesty, and I'm gonna add integrity. That's what it's going to take for the.
You're right.
That's what it's going to take for these organizations, these systems, to start running appropriately. The way that they're written down on paper. Because you can't sweep under the rug when a police officer does something. And try to save some money. Not try to put a dent in the city's budget. Because you're going to go to bat for your police officers even when they're dead wrong. So that's
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
On that.
Well, another question. Go ahead, Economic.
That's good input. But in order to consolidate what you said, what Brother 100 said, and what I said, first deals, like you said, who is expected to be responsible for you if not you?
Yeah,
knowledge yourself puts you in a position to be responsible for you.
Right.
Well, I got another question for you, Economic Mob, and it's coming straight out of the chat room right here from Cynthia in Chicago, Illinois. How are we going to close the prison to pipeline? School to prison to pipeline is what she actually meant to say, the school to the prison pipeline.
I think prevention in that area would be more so not even identifying with it using such minute terms as prison. Let's identify with it for what it is. What is it? It's a system that has been in place. It has been in place to pretty much keep you in the economic and social position you're in. How does the system benefit? A lot of people do not know that there's hidden monetary value when an individual gets incarcerated. That when somebody goes to jail, it's a bond certificate that can actually be exchanged as a security with security interest. So it's other factors or processes that's running like in the back of an individual's subconsciousness or the subconsciousness of the system, that if we actually understood it for what it is, it's voluntary slavery. Slavery was outlawed in America with the exception if it was voluntary. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
So we
Correct.
basically begin to hit it up and drop it 100. Y'all doing the right thing. But how many individuals are going to be ready for what you're doing?
Well, that's the
Are they
question
ready
right there.
for liberation?
Are they ready for their mind to be free? Remember the old saying by free your mind, your ass should follow. But the question is the whole thing is that when Reconstruction was done, it wasn't done for the and I'm not going to even say the African, because I'm just going to say the people of color, because what really everybody doesn't understand, that the majority of your slaves at that time was West Indies. They came up from the West Indies, and it was Indians and stuff. So the that's why they viewed you as property. See that's what everybody don't understand. Your rights wasn't there when Reconstruction and stuff come down, because they viewed you as property, and they didn't view you as a human. So everything they was saying, that's why they had to come back and do voting rights. They had to come back and break it down to certain things on the line. But this is the question right here. Since we went there, economic mob, and I know you ready for this. The landowners had to couldn't do the work, so they had to find out a way to get this free labor or keep the people here to do this work for them.
Find a loophole or create a new way.
So, so at that time, if the have and have-nots would, and I'm gonna go back, I said that wrong because the haves already have it. If the have-nots, black and white, Puerto Rican and down, if they would just sit down at the table and talk and say, hey, let's make our situation better and make them pay us and make them give us our just dues, we wouldn't probably have the problems that we having now.
I agree. I agree. I'm going to try to take about 2 minutes to a minute to basically respond to you, because I know you have other callers.
No, we got you. So go ahead. We got you. We our chat room is there. So go ahead and lay it out.
When you're speaking about things like the Homestead Act, where individuals was just given land that was your land, they was given this land for free. Most of these individuals from back in the day, they were able to acquire that land under an allodial contract, which actually means that property was not only controlled, but it was owned by them, which meant that they didn't have to pay taxes on it. As time progressed, then they made it where individuals actually purchased the home, but the state always keeps the original title. If you buy a car in the auto place, always sends the original title. You can never get the MSO to the car unless you tell them, I'm buying this car and I'm taking it overseas. I want the original title. So it's certain things that if we just took advantage of and we trusted each other to basically find a way, it's ways to alleviate yourself from foreclosure. It's ways to slow down foreclosure. It's ways that pretty much individuals in the community can actually erase their debt. It's ways that individuals can actually remove crimes from their record to have it expunged. But the thing again comes down to this. You got you guys, okay? Now, they can go to the church and listen to what the preacher actually is going to tell them, which is going to be spiritually cultivated. But how is that applicable in this day and age?
Well,
they need people like you.
But is this
like Tony?
Right, but let me ask you this question. Is this by design from society? That's why they broke down the family.
It has to be by design for them to be successful. But we cannot honestly engage in this type of dialogue, because when I said before, how can the church be mute when a cop that's a European American actually shoots an African American or an indigenous Aboriginal American? How can they be mute? How can they be mute when we have more of our people actually leaving this planet just based on abortion alone, and it's not something that's brought up in the church? How can you justify asking them to respect you on this, man, when you're killing your own babies? The people that's going to replace you, the future, you're killing your own babies just based on the social and economic disparities because you would not function as a collective or unified.
Facebook,
who's going to respect you?
Hold on right there. Facebook Live, YouTube, Snapchat. We on the line with a brother that is just sitting it right down and sitting it out. Economic Mob is taking it straight forward, and we're keeping it 100 with him. Economic Mob, go ahead and finish laying it down for our young brothers and sisters can understand what we need to do to change our community and bring it back to a village.
This is just my opinion and my suggestion, and I expect it to be taken as that unless an individual places it under some type of scrutiny and do their own research. Okay? Crime would basically not exist in a community in the manner in which it did if we basically had the economics. Right now, Reed is running for a meritorious candidate against Frank Jackson that actually spoke about the properties and how they basically gave millions of dollars to the states, the banks, to take on the properties, to take them through demolition. Some of these properties could basically be rehab for the homeless, or some of these individuals who are faced with low-income disparities.
Right, make them homeowners.
The thing is make them homeowners. And then I have a company. I'll tell you about it later. I'm just going to mention the name. It's called Recycling Life Solutions. Nothing comes through the community as far as experience, wealth, or knowledge that isn't redistributed or recycled with individuals, even if they need to learn how to landscape, use a hammer, use a nail, fix a car. So see, when they begin to come with the unions and they begin to make everything to the point where you had to have a degree, you kind of notice those individuals who are our parents who were working in the factories and in industrialization, you no longer have accessibility to that, because sometimes the way that they set up their system is to lock you out. Whose responsibility, though, is it to pass on those skills?
Well, see, there go back again that I was talking about, and the young lady brought up the school to the prison pipeline, because if you look at it, 68% of our kids do not go to higher education. So we need to go back into our school system and start teaching trades like we used to give them some tools to work with when they come out of school, that they can go into the community and get a job.
If they're not on drugs. But see, the school is pushing drugs too, because when the school get diagnosis, basically, a kid get diagnosis basically being attention deficit disorder or bipolar, the medical community is already, the pharmaceutical community is profitizing just based on the school doing that. The school gets a kickback. And it's something I think that's called the per diem lien, or something that you can look at. And for every kid that they can diagnose as actually having a psychological problem, that school receives monetary subsidies. And you look at the map, it's only happening in urban areas.
Right, and then it goes back to what Tony Stone said earlier about how the kids are being raised by crackheads and single mothers and things. When we had that argument last week about when he said he was a victim, but we're not gonna go back to you being a victim.
I was a victim.
We're not saying personal. We're not saying personal.
But he was right.
Oh, you heard that?
Right. I heard that.
Yeah, you heard that conversation. Okay, yeah, okay, you remember
I heard that conversation. I'm gonna be honest with you. I understand his perspective, because trust me, I grew up in the hood too. Despite me actually doing something different over the years, my style of policeman was like cultivator, warrior. I just didn't stick with the warrior aspect. So that means I was knocking on people's doors. A couple of times people came and knocked on the door of my residence where I lived and told me who shot this person over there laying in the field. And said, I'm going to give you 3 days to take care of it, or the streets are going to take care of it. Hey, I appreciate it.
Right, and that's what we're missing now. That's what we're missing now. We're missing that right now, because exactly what you said is we're missing the community getting involved and handle it, because I go back to when we did the 49th anniversary of the Glenville riots.
And trust for one another. That's
right.
What that is right there.
And when we did the 49th anniversary of the Glenville riots, we talked about Almond Evans and how they kept drugs off the street, how they fed the poor, how like you said about the church, when the hookers was in the park and the kids couldn't go in the park, the ladies from the church came up to the park and had their church meeting so the kids could play in the park.
Yeah.
Fred, I mean, a lot of individuals do not understand how the black community protected themselves. Because I remember when I was a kid, and I want to say this about the Black Nationals and them, we couldn't go in Sawinski Park and play without being harassed or beat up by baseball bats. Okay, and then or then if we attempted to protect ourselves, here come the Cleveland Police Department down there beating us up too. Okay, I'm gonna call it like it was. That's why I worked with some Cleveland police officers when I went on the force in '79. That used to come down into Skowinski Park and smack us around. Okay, so
I worked on a job where the police tried to shoot me in the head.
So
he worked on one side of town, I worked on the other side of town. It happens.
So you know about that. Yes, it does happen, and you know about that. So what I want to say is that when the Black Nationals came down there and sit in the park, we were able to go play in that park and play baseball, and we didn't have to worry about the Polish people coming down from off Skowinski Hill and all that jumping on us, or the Italians jumping on us at Murray Hill, or the police coming into the park harassing us, okay, because they didn't do it. And everybody doesn't understand that that's how the Nationals and Panthers was rolling, okay, before they got into armed confrontations. But and I'm gonna say this,
right, lunch program,
right, the lunch program, because I'm gonna say this, and I want everybody to understand this. Glenville, our cities right now around America is sitting on a powder keg just like Glenville was. Okay, and it only takes one or two or three people to say, hey, this is it today, we're going to do this and I'm ready to go. Okay, and this is what police officers have to understand, and I want everybody to understand this, that my brother-in-law Ernest Rao, who was black, he got shot in the Glenville riots trying to save a policeman, and 3 police officers were killed that had nothing to do with what the didn't even work in this area. They worked out of an office and they were supervisors. Didn't even have anything to do with what was going on in the community, but they did not address the community concerns.
Right.
That's the problem. They did not.
And it escalated.
Right. And not only escalated, but it escalated to a point of violence. Okay. Where someone said, I do not care who I take my anger out on. And that's what's happening right now with our kids that's continually being harassed, continually being disrespected, continuously being pulled over, continuously being shown the small end of the stick. And then you have individuals come back and say, well, it's white people fault. No, it's not white people fault. We talk about black on black crime. We talk about black responsibility. It's the church fault. It's the parenting's fault. It's the community's fault. There's a lot of issues right there.
It's your fault. It's my fault. Right.
Right. Before you even go on that line, and when people in law enforcement and as Saxman for Life has said about something that a dispatcher, I don't know if you heard last week when the dispatcher talked about black police officers talking about crime and police shootings. The problem is that we are all in this together. And if we don't call out wrongdoing, who's going to do it? If we don't stand...
You know what, brother?
Go ahead, Economic.
No, you're right. Go ahead. Continue.
If we don't stand up for our kids, who's going to stand up for them? If we don't educate our kids, okay? If we don't treat our women with respect and take care of our women, who going to do it? Okay, that's the problem right here. We as black men has to stop waiting for somebody else to come into our community to do our job. And
right, because it's not your community.
Right, because
they have to do that.
And that is 100% correct. Economic Mob, you're going to have to come back in and see us. I thank you for calling and being with us. Matter of fact, we're going to get together because you know what? We're going to set something up where you can come in and just have your own little segment where you can tell the community what's going on. And I want you to listen next week because next week here on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100, we have a esteemed politician and judge, Dr. Una H. Keenan will be doing an interview with us. I'm gonna sit down with her. We also got Ward 10 candidate Freddie Moore that's going to come in, and we're going to sit down and have a talk with them. And we have some other candidates coming up. We're trying to get Eric Brewer into the studio, and I really want you to call when Eric Brewer come on because we want to really have a good conversation with him. But I'm asking everybody from Facebook, YouTube, and stuff to get out and vote. And Economic Mob, you got to give us a call back and get with us, brother. And thank you for being with us on Stop the Madness and Keep It 100.
It was really great listening to you, brother.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you, Tony Sachs, man, and your listening audience. Hey, much love. I'm out of here, fam.
All right, thanks. Hey, that was Economic Mob on the line with us, and that young brother really was laying it down, and the chat room was going wild. So we stayed with him, and anybody else that was on the phone line that couldn't get in, I'm sorry, because we stayed with him because he was really talking some stuff. But Tony Stone, we started off, and this conversation went way up into the sky that we forgot all about what other segment we was going on, and it was about Baltimore and the turnout in Baltimore.
Right.
But what we're going to do, we're going to go pay some bills real quick so we can stay on the air, on internet radio, and make some money. So we're going to go right to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Check out Reverend Bill Miller's Bible study radio broadcast live on the new STMK Radio 100 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please listen in and support him as he joins the realm of broadcasting to encourage believers and offer the comfort of God to others across the airwaves. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Also, feel free to contact him for prayer, counseling, and conversation at brobill9608@yahoo.com. That's BROBILL 9608@yahoo.com. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100.
STMK Radio 100. 100.
AP Radio News. I'm Ed Donahue. Republican lawmakers are answering back after President Trump blamed Congress for bad relations between the U.S. and Russia. The AP's Sagar Magani has the story.
This morning, the president tweeted the relationship is at an all-time and dangerous low, writing, "You can thank Congress, the same people that can't even give us H-care." Senator Tom Tillis says relations with Russia are bad, quote, because they've done bad things. Senator John McCain tweeted, "You can thank Putin." Other Republicans are also blaming the Russian president, with Richard Shelby saying, "I don't see how it's Congress's fault." The president yesterday grudgingly signed a bill putting sanctions on Russia, legislation he called seriously flawed. Sagar Magani at the White House.
A sentencing hearing is going on in Massachusetts for Michelle Carter. She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for encouraging her suicidal boyfriend to kill himself in dozens of text messages. In one message, Carter told Conrad Roy to get back into a truck filled with toxic gas. Mary Claire Flynn is the prosecutor in the case.
And the reason he is not here is the defendant. Michelle Carter, her actions killed Conrad Roy.
The prosecution wants the maximum sentence, 20 years behind bars. The Justice Department is threatening to cut off aid to 4 so-called sanctuary cities. Here's the AP's Mike Hempen.
The Justice Department has sent letters to city leaders in Baltimore, Albuquerque, and Stockton and San Bernardino, California, telling them that they need to help detain and deport people living illegally in the U.S. if they want to qualify for the new public safety partnership. The police departments of the 4 prospective cities must show proof of compliance by August 18th.
Over the last 3 days, there have been at least 7 earthquakes in Oklahoma, each a magnitude of 3.0 or stronger, no damage or injuries. This is AP Radio News.
You've been tuned in to Stop the Madness.
An exhibit about Loretta Lynn.
The microphone from Loretta Lynn's first recording session, her famous dresses, and the sewing machine she used to make her early stage clothes will be on display at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. The exhibit also includes her original handwritten manuscript for Coal Miner's Daughter. The exhibit opens August 25th and runs through next August. Lynn, who is 85, suffered a stroke in May. She said in a statement she's excited about the exhibit. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
One of the Dukes of Hazzard is in trouble with the law.
Just a good old boy.
Tom Wopat is accused of groping a female member of the cast of a musical he was supposed to appear in. Police near Boston say they found a white powder in Wopat's vehicle believed to be cocaine. Tom Wopat will not be performing in 42nd Street in Waltham, Massachusetts. I'm Ed Donahue, AP Radio News.
You've been tuned in to You've been tuned in to Stop the Madness, keeping it 100 on STMK Radio 100. And now back to your host one more time, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone.
Hey, welcome back with us. I'm sorry about that. We got a big storm rolling in on the east side and thundering and lightning, and I guess it hit something because we just flicked back over. I don't know if we lost anybody on the east coast, but on the west coast, some of them went down, so we're back on the air. Welcome to James. James, I want you to give us a call in if you want to call in. The phone lines are open. We was talking about Trump. We was talking about his speech before the Boy Scouts. We talking about what he told police officers about it was okay to abuse suspects' rights. And we was talking about the officers in Baltimore. A big mess in Baltimore has happened. 177 cases have to be reviewed. 12 cases has already been dismissed. 77 more has to be called for a case before a judge to be adjudicated, and it is going to be really, really hot going from there, Tone. And I just don't know what to say right now, Tone, because police officers from all over the country is just going to be victimized and shocked, and has been set back for a long, long time.
Well, Sean, now you like throwing that word victim and victimize out a lot. I'm noticing lately, but no, they shouldn't be they're not gonna be victimized. If they might be shaking in their boots for all the ones that's up to no good. But I think, like I said this like last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, that these cameras, God bless, thank you for these cameras, you know, because this stuff has been going on.
Now you sound like Doug Million.
Now these things been going on forever, and you know, and like we were just talking to Brother Economic Mob, you know, the only way we're gonna right the wrongs of society, you know, the ills of society, we can't eliminate all the bad people. That's human nature. But when people, these organizations, the political arena, these administrations, these positions of power start holding people accountable and weed it out the bad apples, you know, that's the only way we're gonna start to make things right. So this is you know, this is a blessing. I know they don't want to come up off that money. That's the reason why they always.
Well, Baltimore is getting ready to get hit, and the problem, and it goes back across, because in the chat room, Colorado, they have 2 sheriff deputies right now, and it's been indicted for felony tampering with evidence for planting drugs in a car at a tow lot. You have a police officer in Puerto Rico who is also planted evidence and did some stuff that he's right now and is being held accountable for. And then you go right over to Baltimore, where they have multiple officers on their own camera. And this is what makes it so bad, is that some of these officers are going to be charged with felony tampering evidence because they went back and edited the tape for court. And this is the problem I want to know. Why the prosecutors and them didn't catch this earlier?
They shouldn't even have access to edit those videos.
Well, somebody had to edit them, because
right. Well, I mean, I'm thinking he's talking about the officers.
No, I'm not talking about the officer themselves. I'm talking about somebody in the police department,
right,
because
right. Somebody trying to cover up for them.
Because you're talking 177 cases.
Right.
This goes back to public record case. We had a dispatcher last week that got upset and called Sax Man a race baiter. Right. More like a masturbator, but but yeah, you know, and she was supposed to call in, but she didn't call in today, and I knew she wasn't going to call in anyway. But we had other law enforcement officers calling, and this is very serious, because here is in Baltimore, we're talking 9 officers. We're talking on 2 of the videos I seen myself with black police officers standing there watching officers plant drugs on black suspects. Mm-hmm. And I got a serious problem with that.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah. I have a serious problem with that. And I'm going to call it out because
that could be very well be one of their nephews.
Right. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. It could be my brother, my mother, anybody. And that's the question that I was going to ask the dispatcher about. Corruption, or calling out corruption, is not a crime or hate, okay? It's when you be silent, when you don't say anything about it. Mm-hmm. Economic Mob, I wanted to go into it with him because we did the Bacon Rebellion a couple of shows back. And I'm going to talk, we're going to have Dr. Una H.R. Keenan on the show next week, and I'm going to talk to her about accountability, what she's going to do, because she's coming into a police department that has some serious problems, the city of East Cleveland. Okay, and that was one of the best police departments in the country. Okay,
yeah, they a security guard company now.
And she has some serious problems there. The city has some serious problems. Okay, I wanted the mayor, the 57 mayoral election to come in on the situation and see what's happening, and to see how it's gone right there. I also, Tom, when we was talking about the school to the prison pipeline, mm-hmm. that's a serious issue because we made our prison profitable. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's nothing to want to rehab a kid, and that's a problem in the black community. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's 95% of our black on black crime. Because 99.2% of kids suspended from school are going to come in contact with a law enforcement officer or get involved with the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. It's just a fact of life.
Right.
And we got to break that cycle.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, we got to break it. We got to take it upon ourselves to break it by any means necessary until other people, other institutions decide to start doing right. Like you said, it's a profitable industry. So the people who are making these profits, they have no reason to change anything. You know, we can't rely on it. We can't depend on them to have a change of heart. So it starts with us, you know, first and foremost.
It also starts with our people in the field. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, somebody's been silent, been hiding. We've been looking for him. And it's the sex man sitting out in the field. Sex man, are you with us today?
What's going on, man?
Hey, Sax
Sax, what
man,
up, brother?
my brother Economic Mob came on and just stole the show, and he got into some good stuff. You know, we had to let a lot of other police officers go. They got into the chat room and really got it going down. But Sax man, since you here, and you are our law enforcement correspondent in the field, it's time for you to answer some questions, and we only got 5 minutes, and I need you to go through these questions right here because everybody wants to know this. What the hell is going on in Baltimore?
Oh my God. Well, you got 3 officers. One has been suspended. The other 2 has been placed on a ministerial leave, pending the outcome of that body camera debacle. I'm gonna call it a debacle.
That's a crime. They should be in jail right now until
call
proven innocent.
Well, you know, I have to agree with you on that one because what they did was criminal. No doubt about it. There's no bullshit to it. What they did was criminal. If that had been anybody else, they will be behind bars. So why are they getting special treatment? I don't know. Don't they have like a special investigation going on right now with that, Sean?
They have they got 177 cases, and I was just looking at the AP report where 2 people are on capital murder charges that may walk because they was only convicted. They was only convicted on those officers' testimony, and at this point in time, their testimony is not worth 2 cents.
Well, yeah, because now they done brought into question everything that they done. Every case that they was involved in, every piece of paper they pushed, every name they signed, everything they done now is in question.
And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of 1995, Mark Furman and the O.J. Simpson case. Okay,
yeah.
where a possible murderer walked free because of one officer's misconduct and words that he was saying. And it all ended on, have you ever called someone a nigger in 10 years? And he said no. Okay, because if he'd have said yes, no telling where the jury would have went, but he said no. So the second question is, Saxman, that everybody's asking in the chat room, and they want you to be 100. What the hell is wrong with the police officers standing behind Donald Trump clapping and cheering when he told them to beat up prisoners?
You want my opinion? My opinion.
Hey, I want your opinion.
A lot of those cops that stood behind Donald Trump and clapped probably didn't agree with him, but if they didn't do it, they probably caught hell from their superiors. Because I know standing behind them, because I don't think I said. Did you see any?
I have to disagree with that, man.
But look at the damage it has done to law enforcement.
But did you see any black cops standing back there behind him?
No, we didn't see no black cops back there.
You know what I think, Sax? I think they clapped because they want, since that's the president, they want to be able, they want that to go into effect. They want to really be able to do that with no consequences.
I know, but if you would have seen any black cops back there, you wouldn't have saw them clapping. There's no way in hell. So they don't need to have that type of dissension between the whole group. They're trying to make a point. So they need a whole group of white cops back there clapping to support him. They need that to go through. That's what happened.
Well,
a lot of them they didn't like clapping.
Well,
but they know they have to because they went that clap.
Let me tell you this. They catching hell now because a firestorm has been lit because prosecutors across the United States has promised any law enforcement officer who abuses a prisoner's rights that they will put them in jail and prosecute them.
You know what? It's gonna have a back. Trump's all of his rhetoric, all of this big phenomenon with him is gonna have a backlash. All the people who don't like him, all the other politicians and people who don't like him, they're gonna take their frustrations with him. They're gonna start taking it out on the people that are supporting Trump, like those officers who could. Like how you could possibly support somebody saying like that? And you're supposed to be on the side of justice and right and being right.
Listen, Tom. What Trump said put somebody in Sean's chat room a long time ago said that Sax Man put a target on cops back. No way, like what Trump just did. What Trump said and what he did at that rally put targets on cops back for real.
Right.
Because all people are going to do now, they're going to look for a reason now to resist the rest of the police to get rough. They ain't going to smoke a cop. I'm telling you.
Well,
they're looking for a reason. They're looking for a reason now.
Well,
and that just gives more KKK members with uniforms. It gives them more of a reason to go out there and be more racist now because they got the president to back them up.
Well, you know what? I would hope they stop hiding behind the uniforms. You know,
let me just
spotted true colors.
Well, let me just say this right here, Sax Man. We're gonna have to continue that conversation later, cause it's that time. Hey, we thank you for our man in the field. Our man in the field. The Sax law enforcement extraordinaire in the field. Hey, before we get ready to hit that time, I would like to say this: Shaw Week is coming up. My alumni. Hey, Kathy Grant, my sister, Shaw High Alumni Association, and everybody getting everything together. Thursday, August 31st, 2017. Legend of the Hardwood basketball game, 6 p.m. That's going to be Shaw High Alumni versus East Tech Alumni, and the gate's going to open up at 6 o'clock. And then Friday, September 1st, the all-white party, 7 to 1 p.m. at Villa Circle Party Center on Lakeshore. We're going to get some more information on that. And then Saturday, September the 2nd, you got the Shaw High football game. Make sure that you come and watch our Cardinals do that. And then it's the class of 1972 45th year reunion, and the class of 77 their 40th year reunion. That's September the 3rd, 2017, from 10 to 6. We're going to have the family picnic at Forest Hill Park up in the city of East Cleveland. All Shaw High alumni, we expect to see you there. And Tone, it's really been a wild show and wild ride for today.
It's always a pleasure.
And it's that time.
Fan base is big, I can't lose. Chica bow down, I'm the next to move, but I'ma stay on the cool, remain on the under, cause like Andre 3000, your boy's ice cold. Ain't no limit to the gimmicks and ways to make money. No limit to the just to act funny when you get that cake, cause you spit that way. They may love you tomorrow when they hate you today, but yo, that's the way the story goes, so I was told. Following the ramble down the yellow brick road, please believe at the end ain't no pie to go. Just some platinum beats from the Cleveland streets.
You ain't never ever seen a gangster quite like me.
You know I don't give them, and never gave them. I'm just living it up.
No, I hold it down, baby, because I'm certified G.
Tone the Stone, what you got to say to the good people before we leave?
Oh, man, Stop the Madness. Keep it 100. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Thanks for having me. I guess you're having me. What I was going to say earlier, I want to shout out the Brother Academic Mob, Sax Man, all the listeners, all the people in the chat room on Facebook, all the people listening and watching on Facebook Live. Remember, from now on, y'all can always call in, and if you got something to say, we're more than welcome to listen. The numbers posted on Facebook, we'll keep y'all updated on that. And it was something else I wanted to try to drop a jewel earlier, but I forgot. So.
Oh, no, Tone the Stone. Doug Million, you need to come on back to work. Your chair's still open for you, and hope you're doing well. And I want to say everything to everybody. You know, we talked about a lot of issues today about police officers, and we stand on the side of right, okay? No matter who it is. If you're not standing on the side of right, you're standing on the wrong side. Okay, and I want you to understand that. Economic Mob, we appreciate you spending all that time with us, and we enjoyed being with you here on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. I'm your host, as always, Sean L. Love and peace. Until next week, you'll see us tomorrow in the clouds. Join us. We'll be back next Thursday live with Judge Unan Keenan, Dr. Unan Keenan, or you can call her Judge Keenan. She's running for the mayor of East Cleveland. We also going to have the councilman from Ward 10, Freddie Moore, in the studio. and we're going to have much, much more going on. So until next time, we meet again tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. Join us. Peace. See ya.
You've been listening to Stop the Madness, Keep It 100 on STMK Radio 100.